So I'm going to run you through the way that you can get objectionless closes. If we quickly rewind and think about what a closer is, somebody who closes deals, what makes us so good is the fact that we know exactly how the call is going to go. So if you follow the plan that I'm going to give you, and we understand how the call is going to go, you'll understand which objections are going to come up before the prospect has even thought about bringing them up. And if you're able to do that, you're able to get to a point where you don't get objections. And I'm going to run you through it, okay? But before I do, to give you a bit of context, I've taken personally over 400 calls, almost 500 sales calls at this point, selling both B2C and B2B. And I've also reviewed sales calls of more than 100 people, okay? And by doing all of this, I figured out that there's a few things that people are making as a mistake. And the number one thing is that they think the problem is in the objection handling. But it's incorrect. The problem is in the discovery. And the reason it's in the discovery is because, as I say, if you know that an objection could come, why would you not handle it preemptively in the discovery section? So I'm going to give you a set of questions that you can ask people that when you ask, obliterates the objection. They will be unable to actually bring up the objection at the end of the sales call because you would have already taken care of it before. And it's a very simple process. There are 7 beliefs that we want somebody to have in order for them to actually feel confident and comfortable making the purchase, right? In other words, if they don't have these 7 beliefs, they won't buy. They will have an objection in place. But once they have the 7 beliefs, they will be unable to give you an objection. Let's go through it. So number one is pain. Okay, now when it comes from pain, what I mean is, like, we all know about the gap. We know that somebody's here, they want to get there, and there's something stopping them. And our solution acts as the bridge to get them from where they are to where they want to be. Okay, now there is a problem in the way. Whatever that problem is, something is stopping them from getting to A to B, from A to B. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to implement our bridge, which is our offer, and we're going to get them from the A to B. Okay, but attached to the problem is a pain. It's something that is emotionally painful and to the point where it drives them to actually make a change in their life. Okay, the belief that we want them to have is that essentially they have a problem that is keeping them from where they want to go. If they believe that I have this problem and this problem is causing me pain, they will want to solve it, right? And depending on how much you know about sales, you'll understand that we have thresholds, and that people's pain must reach a certain threshold in order for them to make the purchase. I'm not going to dive too deeply into that today, but you have to understand that the element of pain is vital and you must have it, okay? So the way that I get this, when I start off my calls, one of the very first things I ask people is, what is the biggest challenge right now that you're facing in the company? And I do phrase that slightly different on the calls. I'm just going to give you a short version for a lot of these questions. But essentially what you want to figure out is, what is the problem? And what are the pain points associated with that problem, okay? But the belief, which is the important part, the belief that you want them to have is that they have a problem that's keeping them from the lifestyle that they want and the vision that they have for themselves, okay? So number 1, pain. They must feel pain. Number 2 is doubt, okay? Now, if you have somebody that's in a position where they feel a lot of pain, but at the same time, they have a lot of self-belief that they can figure it out by themselves, there's no need for them to delegate the solution. Meaning there's no need for them to sign up with your done for you offer, your done with you offer, whatever it is that you're selling. There's no reason for them to do so because they already have a lot of confidence in themselves, a lot of belief in themselves that they will make it successful without your help. Okay, so there's no reason for them to buy. Doubt comes from the idea of, essentially, I'll just tell you the question here that I love to ask. Is I'll say, hey, so you've been doing this for 2 years already. You've been trying to figure out how to solve this problem. What's in the way of you figuring this out by yourself? Okay. And there are a bunch of ways to get there. But the core belief is you want them to have doubt in their ability to be able to fix it themselves. So the belief that you want them to have is, I can't fix this by myself. Okay. If they have that belief, then they will want to go ahead and work with you because they won't be able to believe that they can do it themselves. And as like a little side note quickly, they may believe that they can do it themselves, but this is where time comes in. This isn't one of the beliefs, but as a side note, time comes in where if they've just been doing this for 2 years And like, let's face it, everybody can figure anything out if they put enough time and effort, energy into it. But the idea is not wanting to wait. So when we talk about belief and we talk about doubt, it's really within the time frame that they're looking to achieve their goals more than anything. Okay, so that's why asking them great things like, how long have you been doing this for? What have you tried so far? All of these different questions are going to build a lot of doubt around their ability to figure out the problem by themselves. Number 3 is cost. And when I talk about cost, really what I refer to is the cost of inaction. Okay, I was reviewing a call for one of my clients. They are a marketing agency targeting realtors. And on the call that I reviewed, it was yesterday, it was I recorded a full video for them for 2 hours reviewing the call. But one of the things that they were missing is they never actually asked how much that realtor was earning on average per deal that they were closing. Okay, so in the particular scenario, he last year closed 4 deals and his goal was 14. Okay, but it never became clear of exactly how much that gap was worth. So his goal, he was achieving 4 and his goal was 14. So there's 10 missing. Now, how do we know how much a deal was worth? And I'm just going to give a really simple number and say that each deal is worth 10K. Okay, if we know that each deal is worth 10K, last year you achieved 4, which is 40K, and you had a goal of 14, which is 140,000, right? We now know the gap between those is 100K. Okay, so the cost of inaction, i.e. the cost of the problem, how much this problem is causing, is 100 grand, right? Because they could have made 140, they only made 40, right? The goal here is to be able to communicate to them that doing nothing is more painful than investing. And specifically in this particular scenario, if there is, and again, I'm using simplified numbers, but if we know that each deal is worth 10K and they're missing out on 100K by not buying our solution, then that's a massive, massive amount of money that they're quote unquote leaving on the table. Okay, so we want to figure out exactly how much things are worth to them and exactly what the cost is of inaction. So one thing that you could ask people here, I mean, you could firstly just ask them, okay, well, how much are you missing right now, basically? So you figure out what the gap is, you figure out how many deals or how much is worth each deal or each appointment, each product, whatever it is that you're helping people sell. You figure out how much that gap is worth and then you communicate that. Okay, so the gap is worth 100K. If you solve this problem, you have an extra 100K a year or 100K a month. Is that right? They say yes. Okay, cool. I got it. Understood. That's the cost of inaction. All right. You can also ask them, look, if you just keep doing the same thing, if nothing changes for the next 6 months, like, excuse me, how much is that going to cost you? Like, how much does that actually cost the business, right? Just figure out what the cost of inaction is and communicate that to them. Pretty simple, right? And what you want to do is make sure that the pain of inaction is greater than the cost of the investment and whatever they have to invest. By the way, if you see me looking inside, I'm reading some notes to keep us in the flow, okay? So what do we have so far? We've got pain, we've got doubt, and we went through cost. So next, number 4 is desire. Now, the belief that you want people to have at this stage is that solving this would dramatically improve their life, i.e. they must have desire to make a change. They must have a desire to make an improvement, all right? And it's only with desire that people actually go ahead and take action. You may know that a lot of the human population are more focused on moving away from pain than towards pleasure, okay? So by nature, most of us are programmed to move away from pain. So that's why we look at pain. But a lot of people also, they also drive a lot, or they get a lot of drive from achieving a desired goal. That's why we talk about goals, and this is where desire comes in. But the most important thing here is that they must actively have the desire to make a change. And if they don't, then they're not going to want to do it right now. They may push it off later down the road, okay? So when it comes to desire, there's a few things that you want to do. Firstly, look at this from a time perspective and ask them, look, you've been working on this problem for 2 years. Why is now the right time to get some help to actually change this? Or why is now the right time to change and implement a solution to change what you're currently doing. Why is now the right time to fix this problem? So you can go from the time perspective, which is a great angle to take, especially if objections, if you're getting a lot of objections where people are like, yeah, I mean, let's come back to this in a month or 2 months from now. They're going to be completely obliterated because you're going to be asking them, why is it important that we solve this? Why right now must we implement a solution? All right, that's what you're getting to, okay? And again, the direct phrasing that we're going to use on calls might be a little bit different, but this is the general story. This is the general thing that we're doing, okay? So you've got the time element of desire, but the other element is just asking them, look, so you're at 40K, you want to get to 140K. What would that change for you personally speaking? All right, how would that impact you personally? How would that impact your personal life? You know, ask them about these things. Go deep. Get personal with these people. Most people don't. You have to realize that the average person maybe only has 2 to 3 people in their life that truly cares about them and sees the best in them. And your job on these sales calls is to show up and see the best in these people and figure out why they want to do these things and support their dreams, support their goals, because sometimes their closest people in their life aren't supporting them. So you need to come through and talk about their desire and get them to open up about their most realist visions, dreams, things that they don't typically share with people. Get them to reveal that stuff to you, and open up and see what that desire is and build that urge and necessity to take action on this today. All right, so that's desire. Belief number 5 is money, okay? Money is pretty simple. It really depends. If you're selling B2B, typically this might not come up so much. Unless they're smaller businesses. It definitely comes up in B2C. So really on the money side of things, the belief is I have the finances and the willingness to invest in a solution to this problem. Okay, they must believe that they have the money, and they must believe that they're willing to actually invest. They're willing to spend money on solving this problem. Again, this is a case-by-case basis. The way that I typically do it, if I'm on a call and I'm getting a lot of red flags, for example, if somebody says that they work at a fast food restaurant and they're just trying to get started with their business, it's a massive red flag. So I may go ahead and ask them like an honest question and just basically see where they're at financially and see if right now they are actually able to put money into solving the problem, okay? And you can pretty much ask them just like that. You can say, hey, are you currently in a position where you're able to invest into a solution to this problem if you found one? You can ask them that, and you can understand where they're at, okay? They may just turn around and say, oh yeah, I've got like $200 to invest. You may have to ask. Okay, well, what kind of figure have you set aside to actually investing into solving this problem? And you can ask them that question. There's nothing wrong with asking them how much they set aside, because the truth is, if you've ever bought anything on a sales call, you will know that you walk onto the sales call with a figure in your mind. We all do it, and usually there's a range. We walk on and we're like, okay, if it's 3K, I'll just buy it right away. If it's 6, then it's going to really be a push. Like, it's got to be perfect. And then usually if you put 6 in your mind, usually if it turns out to be 7 or 8, you usually end up doing it anyway, if it makes sense. But you got to understand your prospects are the same. They have a range in their mind, and you got to make sense. By the way, I hope you're taking notes, but if you're losing track, I am going to leave a resource for this in the description below. So it's going to give you a checklist and everything that you need. So in the description, just go down there, click the link to access the resource, and you'll be able to access this exact document and just copy all of this stuff directly from there, okay? But we've got a couple more. Let's keep ticking through. So we said cost, desire, money. Next is support. All right, so they must believe that they are going to be supported by the people around them if they make this decision, okay? So people, when it comes to objection handling for partner objections, there's typically 2 main reasons that you'll lose a sale. Number 1 is that you don't have all of the decision makers on the call, i.e. the current decision maker that you're with cannot make a decision themselves and they need somebody else. The other one is when they are able to make a decision by themselves, but they do not feel that the other decision maker or the other person in their life will support them for making that decision, okay? And both of these are really, really important. But really, this one here is ask them 2 things. Firstly, ask them if there's anybody else involved in making this decision. If there are other decision makers, then just don't pitch them. Just get them to bring the other decision maker onto the call, or makers if they're a plural. A multiple, rather, bring them onto the call, and then you can solve that together, and you can go through the entire call, and then you won't have the partner objection because they're both right there in front of you, right? And the other thing, if they are able to make the decision themselves, you can ask them, okay, well, does your business partner or your wife or your spouse or whoever it is, do they know that you're on the call today? How do they feel about you looking for a solution to this problem, right? You basically want to figure out, are they involved in the decision-making process, and become very clear, and then make a judgment call on whether or not you need to bring the other decision maker onto the call, or whether you've got the only person that you need to be able to make the decision actually move things forward, okay? Because that's the only thing that matters, right? But again, they must believe that the people around them will support them for making the decision. Next is trust. This is the last one of the 7. And trust is super, super important. But really, when it comes to trust, they must believe that this is going to work for them and that this is the best thing for them. They must believe that it's different. If they believe that it's the same as everything else that they've already tried before, there's going to be a lot of doubt, and they're not going to feel like they want to take action on it, okay? So again, on the trust element, it's partially... and more importantly, it's the fact that they believe it's going to be successful, but it's also that they believe it's going to be different. So when it comes to trust, you can ask them, you know, what else have they tried in the past, why they think it didn't work, etc. So for example, as an agency owner, if I'm talking with somebody and I said, okay, so look, you've been experiencing this lead generation problem for 2 years now, where you're generating leads, but they just don't seem to be qualified enough. What have you tried already to solve this problem? And they say, well, you know, we hired an agency, like an SEO agency about a year ago, and we just didn't see any results. I say, okay, well, so tell me more about that. So they were doing SEO. You said they didn't get any results. I mean, can you give me a little bit more context? And then I'll get them to open up and I'll ask questions to figure out exactly what the problem was. And I may even ask them, okay, well, look, why do you feel like this didn't work for you? And they may say, well, you know, SEO just takes time and we didn't give it enough time. Or they may say, oh, well, the agency was just really bad with communication and I don't actually think they were doing anything, or, you know, whatever it may be, right? But we want to get all of this onto the table and we want to figure out exactly what issues that they had working with the previous solution. Because once we identify what those issues are, we're going to prevent that objection from coming on later, right? So for example, if they work with an agency in the past and their concern is that the agency would take 2 weeks to get back to them and they would only have a call every month and your prospect wasn't happy with that, then when you come around to your pitch, you may want to go ahead and customize things slightly, where you tell them, okay, so we're going to actually speak to you every 2 days. We're going to send you a message with an update on exactly what we're doing. And we have our calls every week or bi-weekly. All right, you go ahead and you say that. Now you completely are different to why the previous agency didn't work, which was a lack of communication, right? So you want to understand these things so you can defeat the objection before it comes, okay? Now, I realize as I'm speaking right now that, again, following through and understanding everything I'm saying, although, again, hopefully you're taking notes, could be difficult. So I'm going to leave that resource in the description below, okay? It's going to have all of the 7 beliefs that you need to go through, at least one question for each of them of what you need to ask in order to actually get the belief that you need. And it's going to have a checklist. So for each of your calls that you have, you can literally have this checklist printed right there. And you can just tick off each of your checkboxes for each of the beliefs that you've installed as you go about the calls. And by doing this, you're going to remove all of your objections. You're going to remove your partner objections, your financial objections, your time objections, your desire objections. You're going to release belief, all of these different things. You're going to release all of them before they even come up in the first place. And you're going to be an absolute killer closer. You're going to be way better than you are currently, okay? So get access to that resource. Just click the link below. You'll get access to that. But look, I want to leave you with one final point, which is the understanding that this isn't a script, okay? That you don't have to run through it in the specific order that I went through today. But if you understand that there are only 7 beliefs that your prospect needs to have, then your goal for the call can simply become ticking off each of those beliefs, right? As long as you tick off those 7 beliefs, you will have the prospect in a position where they'll be ready to make a purchase, right? And then, yeah, the rest matters too. Your pitch does matter. All of the other bits, they matter as well. But as long as they have these beliefs in place, and they truly believe that you are the best person to help them solve their problem, and they truly believe that now is the right time to solve the problem, and all of the other beliefs, if they have these beliefs in place, they will take action. They will buy, and you won't get objections as frequently as you currently are. And a lot of the times, you won't get any at all, okay? I've had many times where I've dropped the price, and I don't have any props here. I do. They'll be like, yeah, like, this is my bank card. Like, yeah, I've had my bank card in my hand the entire time, right? It's happened time and time again because I go through and I get all of the beliefs and I make sure all of the beliefs are in place, and people buy. It's as easy as that. If you're an agency owner and you're looking for a more consistent and predictable flow of clients for your agency, and you would like to explore the idea of working with me one-on-one, click the first link in the description below to explore that idea. You can see a little bit more about what we do, how it works, etc., etc. Click that. If not, click the second link with the resource, get access to that. And if you don't any of that, just click the subscribe buttons. I upload these videos once a week to help you grow your agency, and I'll see you again in the next one.